know your why of why you're going into whatever you're pursuing, and let that North Compass really drive you. Continue to come back to that, your values, your why, your heart, your intuition, your purpose of why are you here? Because you really shouldn't be doing something or spending tons of money or time if you're not invested in yourself, and let that guide you. It always amazes me the people who come forward, the opportunities that present, the ahas, the things that click when I just move from what is that next right action right now. Are you ready to live a heart-led, balanced life grounded in spirit and nature's wisdom? To step into your full power and potential? If so, you've come to the right place. I'm Olivia Ashley, a mother, intuitive, and holistic wellness advocate. Live Wildly is a community of people uplifting each other and shining our hearts to the world. Join us to remove limiting beliefs, enhance your intuition, reclaim your sovereignty, and uncover what makes you thrive. Together, we dive deep into holistic, earth-based, and spiritual topics while also exploring a variety of subjects to inspire and inform. Subscribe now and be a part of our journey towards living our most authentic, full lives. Welcome. I am so happy you are here. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Live Wildly. I'm Olivia Ashley, your host, and today we're diving into a topic that so many of us grapple with, which is how to balance the demands of a 9-to-5 job or full-time motherhood while still pursuing your passions, whether that's continuing your education, building a business, writing a book, mastering a new skill, or just being a curious, open-hearted human. In this episode, I'm going to answer the questions you've all been asking about making it work and also highlight the areas I have found key to making this successful. You'll discover the secrets to managing your time and energy so you can make progress on your passion projects without burning out. We'll also talk about overcoming the guilt and self-doubt that can hold you back. And I'll share practical tips on setting boundaries and building the support system you need to thrive. So if you've ever wondered how to chase your dreams while staying on top of everything else, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. So who am I? Who is Olivia Ashley? And why do I feel I can confidently come and share my story and bring this episode forward in this very important and big topic that I think many of us probably face or are having, especially if you found your way here. So I am a mother of 3. We homeschool our children. My husband, Steven, does take the brunt of that focus. He does that work. So that frees me to do my full-time, mostly remote position where I manage a small team and run the operations and donor relations for a team at a university. So those are parts of what I do. And then I also am the host of this podcast. Hello. I'm so happy you're here. I also do intuitive readings that include Reiki and Akashic Record readings. And I aspire to be an author and to create programs to help you all take all of everything that I'm doing here on the podcast a few steps further to get you more knowledge and support. And I am a lifelong learner. So I love learning, not about everything. I don't want to know, how far are the stars away from the planet or math or auto mechanics. Not my cup of tea. And yet I am someone who is enthralled with potential, with consciousness, with nutrition, with regenerative agriculture, gardening, homesteading, education, sustainability, animals. All of this energy work. I mean, I could go on and on. I have so much fascination with this world. And so those are a few of the titles that I wear. And I began just like most people, went to high school, went to college, and really just was unsure. I never felt that I knew what I wanted to be, where I wanted to go, yet I loved learning. I loved the act of learning, of understanding. So I have my bachelor's in history, and then I focused really on a lot of environmental history of just how did we affect our environment, and then paired that with tons of psychology and sociology classes that really highlighted how humans think and operate. And so when I graduated, I went into the work that I currently do, which is so cool, right? Like I really do love my 9 to 5. I love the people I work with. I love the flexibility that it gives me. I love that I'm managing and getting to lead a team and support and coach other people to navigate this realm. Especially, I like teach them everything I learned. And then while I did that and have pursued that career, I have also almost every year pursued a certificate or a program or building part of my business on the side of also having babies. So I started having children in 2016. I had another one in 2018, and I've had my last baby in 2022. So I feel like I've accomplished a lot. I feel very proud when I look back. I can be like, whoa, how cool. I pursued all these things I was fascinated in. And if you're curious, I started with my yoga certification. So I have my 250-hour classical Hatha Vinyasa yoga. And then I paired on, it's 80 hours in prenatal yoga and 20 hours in postnatal yoga. I love women, babies, motherhood, right? That's part of Live Wildly, is really wanting to support you if you are on that journey through motherhood, already are a mother, and just how do we integrate and support our bodies and make sure we feel good. I think that's a lot of what my curiosity stem from, is how do I feel better in my body so I can show up and be creative and leave a legacy and create wealth and create community, right? And so if you're listening, I'm hoping that you're feeling similarly, or you are identifying your values as well as I'm speaking. And then I pursued my Reiki master, which was the most beautiful experience. And we were traveling full time at that part. So we did travel 6 months in an RV through the Western United States, which was absolute incredible experience. Hard in some ways, but so expansive and opening. And I did that also while working full time. We were traveling, and then I was pursuing this certificate. But it all made sense. And we're going to get to this into these tips, but I want to lay out, like, again, why do I feel I can really share this with you? Because I have had a journey of balancing a 9 to 5 motherhood and personal pursuits. And then I began my blog, which I don't have anymore, but it was my first instance of, hey, I feel like there's something I want to share. And I started doing that through the written word. That was in, I think, 2019. I started that on 8/8/2019, which makes me think of the Lionsgate portal that we just had, and recording this on the 9th. So that was yesterday. And just as a start of, I think there's something here I'm supposed to be sharing, but I'm not sure what. And I was kind of nervous. I had never done that at that point. So that was my first dipping of toes into, what does a website look like? What offerings do I have? Starting to offer intuitive readings and Akashic record readings, and doing that on the side of my full-time job and all the things I was doing. And then I launched this podcast in March of 2023, which was amazing and has been such a journey in this last year and a half. I've learned so much. I've grown so much. I've met so many amazing humans like yourselves. And then in 2023, I also did a herbal educator certificate because I was feeling called from the plants to learn more. I always had teas, but I didn't really understand. I wanted to build a foundation, again, for my own health and well-being, and to be a kitchen herbalist and help and support and give offerings to my local friends or peoples. Really, I've used a lot of what I've learned for myself, and yet it's allowed me to then also share from this holistic standpoint and everything I've learned within these programs. What does it take to really be a healthy, happy, whole human while working and maintaining your 9 to 5? So that whole time I have been working mostly full time. I had a couple years where I was part-time when I had really little kiddos. And now that brings me to here of kind of where I started, the maintenance of, I feel like an octopus. I'm like Queen Octopus of juggling. And sometimes I juggle too much and burnout hits and I question, and I'm like, well, why am I doing this to myself? Is this really purposeful, meaningful? And then I check in. But that brings me to really starting the actionable tips and what I want to share here in this episode. So you have some of my background, you know where I'm coming from. I've been authentically juggling and maneuvering and learning and starting and building all of these beautiful things. And I want to start this off with really talking about it takes a level of mindset and personal growth to be ready to really enact this in your life. So whether you're in a 9 to 5, you're a full-time mother, you're somewhere in between, and you're like, hey, I like this job, or maybe I hate this job, and yet I don't have the skills, or I'm content in this job and I just want to learn something else, or I'm being drawn to do this or look into this or start this. And you're like, where do I start from here? So it starts with mindset. It starts with a really big willingness to say, hey, I have kind of tapped out on my growth zone and I'm a little bit uncomfortable there. Like part of me wants to stay, part of me wants to look into something, but I don't know, like, how can I actually take those steps to making change and also be satisfied, right? Satisfied in my life still and not overwhelmed or overburdened, and maintain this positivity and focus while I adventure into these dual roles that I will start to be and wear. And so setting your mindset, noting that you're going to be pushed. This is a growth period. So you might have to stay up a little later. You might have to drop a few things. You might have to adjust your expectations to really be ready to adventure in wherever you're seeking, whatever you're looking at. And that can be tricky. Like a lot can come up with that. But until you're really ready and like, I can do this, because you don't want to start something and then be like, this is uncomfortable. This is hard. I'm just not going to really put my time and attention into it. Or I'm going to drop out halfway through and then I'd wasted my investment. Or, I stopped, or I felt the fear and I couldn't handle it, because those things are going to come up. I would say don't start until you really have that pull, that knowing, that assuredness and readiness to say, this feels right. Let's go. And what are those supportive systems, which I'm going to talk about through this whole thing, those actual tips of how do I maintain and actually balance everything? But your mindset's going to be key. So taking care of yourself. How are you moving your body? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? How and what are those thoughts you tell yourself about yourself? I think that for me has been one of my biggest struggles, is feeling maybe unworthy, feeling like, oh gosh, even if I put in 3 hours, I still feel behind. Or even if I did 2 posts about something, oh, that wasn't enough, because that comparison, right? Like, be where you are, be who you are, and know this is your journey, and it's not going to be what other people's look like. You get to have your journey unique to yourself. And so giving yourself some space and grace to grow into even a new version of yourself. There's going to be stuff that's going to have to drop and transform and shift as you move into this learning or this business or this endeavor. Maybe it's like you're a full-time mom and you want to start a job, right? It's a transitionary period. And yet you've got this. If this is what you're called to do, you can figure it out. Do not let that fear and that unsureness and unworthy feelings or any of those self-critical pieces stop you from pursuing, but get yourself right. And the next piece I would say is really preparing yourself for time management and prioritization of whatever you're going to pursue. So I, being a working full-time employee, being I would say part-time mom, I am home, I am here. I do support a lot of the things, but I have to be on, right? I have things, I have meetings, I have to-dos I'm accountable for. And then also pursuing podcast episodes. So when do I record? When do I make outreach for interviews? When do I do the interviews? When do I edit? When do I do all those pieces? And then same with like readings. How do I schedule? How and when do I take payments? What does that look like on my website, right? There's a lot that go into that. And that's for me, I'm more in the business side. So I'm still collecting, but I've done a lot of learning. So if I can think back to doing yoga or my Reiki, it's still just time. It's like, you know what you're signing up for, right? Is it a 9 to 5? Those are your hours. Is it hey, we're going to meet for this program every Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30 each week, and then you're going to have a couple hours to do on your own on the side. You have to commit. And I love that you know that, right? Going into continued learning or education or programs, or if you start to build a business, you have to be accountable to set those times for yourself. And that can be tricky if you're not already in a mindset of being accountable to yourself and able to really set those times. The biggest second piece I'd say outside that mindset is, do you have the time and the prioritization ability to actually prioritize what it is you are pursuing? So what needs to shift? How do you prioritize your goals? Maybe you go to sleep like an hour later, so you have an hour before bed to do something. Maybe you wake up an hour earlier before the kids, or when someone's napping, instead of cleaning or doing a load of laundry, you do your learning and what you need to do. And maybe, especially if you're running a business or doing something, I would say my biggest tip is getting accountable to 2 to 3 days within your week to saying, here is my chunk of time that I'm doing nothing else, but I have dedicated business me time. So one day I did my budget. One day I sent a bunch of emails and cleaned up some folders. One day I reviewed and edited an episode. But like, I've set that time, and then I can look at that day to day in the present moment and say, what are my priorities? And so you have to start to learn, how do you prioritize? How do you function and manage yourself? Because that's really what it comes down to, is no one is going to hold you accountable necessarily. Yeah, a program will and will check in, but you have to be the one to make it happen. And so getting the systems in place to make sure your kids are covered, someone can make sure you have dinner or food, and you have a little bit of time to make incremental progress. Because I think something, and that's happened to me, is we get trapped in this mindset of, oh my gosh, if I can't go full speed ahead and just give like 7 hours a day, and I'm going to fully commit, and I want this all to be done, or I'm going to learn all this in 1 month, and then I'm good to go, or I'm going to launch this and set these really intense timelines, I think that can be your downfall. And so I constantly remind myself, slow and steady wins the race. Like, I literally have to visualize I am that turtle. I am consistent, but I am slow, and I'm not behind slow. I'm going a pace that I can sustain. Okay, that is key. Do not run, do not sprint. You will burn out. And maybe a few of you can operate at that and like, go for it, girl. Get it if you can do that. But for the majority of us, we are already so working beyond, I think, what we should be as mothers, as women. We want to fix it all. We feel so much that pressure to be on, to be accountable, to be building. What are you doing? What accomplishments have you done? And it's like, oh, just take a breath. Take a breath. Okay, I'm going to dedicate 6 months to investing in continued education, or I'm going to give myself a 6-month runway to get everything in order, and this is my launch date. Okay, so get your time management and prioritization in order, and then you're going to be good. Like, you'll adjust and be flexible, but you'll have the knowing that you can get things done. My next biggest tip, I would say too, is building a support system. And this doesn't mean like, oh my gosh, I need to go out and find all my friends and get all these people who are going to back me and my goals and my passions and are going to like build me up. I'd say there's layers to this. So there's building a support system around, one, how do you maintain your home and everything you need to do to just thrive, be you, have clean laundry, have food, have your home clean, and just you taken care of. And who is going to help to step in to take some of that burden when you know that now your time, some of that time allocation is shifting? Others might need to pick up some slack, or you might need to say, hey, in this period, while I'm working on this, I'm going to need some help, or I'm going to need some assistance. So can your friend take your kids for 30 minutes an hour so you can run and do this, or you can focus on your education or what you're building towards? The second piece I would say to building a support system is who has your back? Like, who are those friends who you could tell them the most wild thing? Girl, I am selling everything and I'm going to just go live out of Airbnbs and travel and do whatever. And they'd be like, oh, get it, go for it, you've got this, like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Let's think about how to actually actualize this. Like, this is what I've learned. Here's some ideas, hearing what you thought. Have you thought through this? Like, being a true support system of, I'm not judging you. I have no skin in your game of your life, but are you happy? Are you healthy? And did you think through things that maybe you didn't? You're so excited. Like, let me ground you and get you to where you need. Find those people that can just be your trusted confidants. You can cry to them, you can lean on them, you can laugh with them. They're going to get you through this period. And everyone should have at least one human in their life that sees them in that manner. And I would say outside your relationship, outside of your direct partner, whomever that may be, you need that other person to really just get you and hold space for you and see you. And then I would also say, even like around building a support system, decide where and who you're going to tell otherwise. You don't need to tell everyone. Most people don't need to know, but maybe your work needs to know, hey, I am pursuing this really amazing thing, and I'm going to need to leave 45 minutes earlier on Wednesdays to go make it to this in-person class or take this Zoom call. I'm not going to take my lunches this day, or I will work a little earlier, or I'll add a little bit of time the next day. Be communicative with your 9 to 5 if you need to adjust some of your time or pieces. And from being a manager, I would say I so love open communication. And also I love those who are really thoughtful of, I'm not going to ask for a whole day off, right? I mean, and maybe that's what you need. And so you do need to talk to them about it. But I think for a lot of these things that we are starting to build and shift into, as long as it's not a huge, like, upending piece, that's a whole different conversation. Like, you need to go part-time. You need to adjust your schedule, put your 40 hours over 4 days, right? Have those conversations, be open. I'm always amazed at how many managers are actually really supportive of this if you're doing a great job, which I'm assuming you already are. But if it's just like some really minor pieces of, I'm going to need an hour extra here, an hour extra there for this next 6 months to really thrive and do what I want to do on the side, and like I need this, most people are going to work with you. So have your support system at your work. Let them understand some of it, or at least what they need to know. Have your support system at home, and have those people who've got you. And I would also build into this, have a mentor. So that's something that's always helped me through. Sometimes that mentor is within the program you're in, but I often find that mentor is maybe someone who is going through the program with me, and we can work together and talk about the same things, or someone who, hey, I'm really curious about learning to do intuitive readings, and you find someone who's a friend, or you pay them to help you understand how to get there and give you that insight that you are missing. I think mentors are so overlooked in this day and age. Like, we need people who've already been there and done it to help us hone our craft. So check in on that. Who can you find and identify who can just be that? If you're imagining you're in your growth zone and you're trying to get there, find someone who is owning and doing what you really want to do and learn from them. So you also don't have to have a direct relationship with them, but turn all your Instagram friends into those authors. Turn all your Instagram friends into your favorite podcast people or motivational speakers. Or, okay, I want to learn all about crystals. Okay, then you just start following people who are doing that, right? Start to create a life that is emulating what you want to step into and where you want to go. And that will really help you internally adjust, but also fuel you and fill you with excitement of, this is actually possible. I can learn this. I can integrate this. I can become this. Other people are doing it. I think that's really overlooked right now of how much that expansion can help you. The next one I want to talk about is around boundaries. So this kind of goes to most of what I've already talked about, but it's a little different. So really, how can you set boundaries at work, with your family, and in your daily routine to protect your time for your passion projects? So hopefully at this point, you've already somewhat done this. You've done that time management work. You've asked for help. You've set out, hey, this is the times I need to just be me. For me right now, where I'm at, this looks like getting up really early on Fridays, driving into my local town, setting up at a coffee shop, and then just having my laptop, I do journal work, I set my to-dos, and then I have about 2.5 hours to plug away at everything I want to get done. And again, I never get it all done, but I get a lot done. And then I move into my work, my 9 to 5. And then I can be like, okay, I set my day, I set my morning. Oftentimes I'll try to fit a yoga class somewhere in between all of that to also move my body, feel like I did that. So then when I go home later, it's Friday. Like I want to finish up work. I want to be with my family. I want to feel like I have the time. And so as much as boundary setting is around holding that space and container for when you do your work, it allows you to separate your work from the rest of your life. Because one of the biggest things I struggle with is that guilt and that lack of worth and that feeling like I'm not doing enough and that I am not accomplishing enough. When in reality, just as I speak through this podcast, I go, holy moly, I'm juggling a lot and I have a lot on my plate. I'm doing so good. If I'm taking one step each day and I'm consistently showing up, ooh, like we've got this. We're doing it, And so create those boundaries. This is so important. I would also say boundaries around who do you accept into your space? Who are you accepting advice from? Who are you welcoming to know, like, hey, I'm learning this, or hey, I'm building this, I'm going to launch this. You need those people who got you, and the rest really just have to go, right? It's one thing if you want to ask for advice or, hey, can you just as an outsider who knows nothing, look in on this? You need to be really careful with yourself, with your energy, with your time, because when we get really excited and we're like, hey, this is my passion, this is my heart, and we want to tell people, or we want to invite people in, or don't you want to come do this with me? Or I want to tell you about what I'm learning. It goes awry really fast is all I can say as from someone who has done all of those things. You just need to be excited for what you're doing and like trust those who need to hear it will come and ask you for advice or find what you are doing. And set boundaries with friends. I'd say that's been one of my biggest things. It's been really interesting around, here's all the things I do. It's like, what's friendship versus business versus you're stepping over my boundary a little bit too much, or like, this is my container and I'm welcoming you into it, but this doesn't feel right at this point anymore. And I'm not giving very specific examples here, but just to say that it can get tricky. And so always coming back to your center. And if something's not feeling right, don't let that sit. Work with that, have a conversation, figure that out. And most importantly, don't let yourself feel guilty for where other people are at or the timeline other people's are on, or feeling selfish because you're creating these boundaries. And so I'm going to say no to my friend for going out, or I'm going to look at my husband and go, I have not seen you all day, but I need to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to see you before bed. And then tomorrow's a new day and we'll go from there. Like, that's hard. That has been one of my biggest things, is this guilt around taking the time to pursue a passion, to pursue continued learning, to pursue building a business. And sometimes I feel like, gosh, am I just so unhappy that I have to keep adding to my to-do list, that I have to keep adding to what I want to do? And then when I really feel into that, it's like, no, this is what I want to do. This feels really right. It's just, I need to better manage my time, better manage my expectations, and better set those boundaries. So I'm taking care of myself. I'm not thinking about all the things I didn't do. I can sit down in the time that I need. I can have the space and attention that I need when I need to get there. And everyone in my life understands that, right? You don't have to understand why I'm doing this, but hey, my life's adjusting a little bit. My routine's adjusting a little bit. My time bandwidth is adjusting a little bit. And if they're good friends, they should understand, right? They should be there for you. It is seasons. We go through so many seasons of life. And so be in the season you're in. And this really segues into somewhat of like self-doubt. So, kind of back to a lot of what we talked about is, are you ready? That first thing, are you really ready to step into this growth zone? Are you really ready to conquer those demons, conquer that inner critic, conquer some of those fears of procrastination or overwhelm or just refusal to actually take steps and do the damn work? And I think self-doubt is a much bigger root of a lot of the things and reasons for why we don't take the next steps. We doubt ourselves. We doubt, are we truly worthy of this? We doubt, are we truly capable? We doubt in the work that we can do. We doubt of, are they actually going to see us the way we want them to see this, or is it going to be the way we want? That is the biggest hurdle I have come up against and had to continue moving forward and through, because otherwise you won't do anything. I think it can just debilitate you. So also, if you're doubting yourself or you're really in that doubt, guilt, shame spiral, ask a friend, ask someone. This is how I'm feeling. I need to just share, get perspective, because 9 out of 10 times, this is just an internal feeling that you're struggling with and it's not real. And someone can help you reflect and say, hey, no, like, remember, like, you're so good at this. Like, this is why you're going to be good at doing this. Like, keep going. We need that remembrance and reminders. This is also where I would say leaning into your own energy, your own intuition, your guides, your religion, your belief system, that connection with the beyond to help also ask for support, get clarity. Your gut and your intuition knows. We need to start to work with that more if you aren't already when it comes to decision making, when it comes to getting messages around things we're struggling with. Just ask the question to yourself and feel into it. You will get a response to some manner. And that can often help me when I'm struggling, step outside and say, no, this is my mind. My mind is not catching up. My ego is telling me this old played out story, which is trying to protect me. And yet I can overcome it. So when you're starting to doubt a business, a creative project, an endeavor to learn, if you have underneath that already been just like feeling so excited, so intrigued, curious, you found the program, you know what you're going to do, and then this starts to creep in, this guilt and this doubt and all those worries, note that that's most likely not true, right? It is true. You're feeling those feelings, but it's not a truth that means I need to stop and not go forward. You have to learn that distinction between this is actually not right for me. Okay, I'm listening. I'm going to stop this and I'm going to do it this way instead. Or, okay, maybe this isn't the right time for whatever. And my gut is protecting me and showing and saying, hey, oh, I'm so glad. That was like, I was thinking this way, but I wasn't fully on. And now I feel good with that decision versus, okay, I'm like so excited. I'm moving forward. I found this program or I found what I'm going to launch and now I'm freaking out. And now I have this guilt. I'm unsure about it. Is this actually what I should be doing? These fears are creeping up and now I'm procrastinating and I'm just really worried. No, those are just worries. So getting out of that, taking a moment and a breath to coming back to your vision, your why, your values, and then going, okay, if I continue, do I feel safe? Do I feel good? And most of the times, like when you can separate it, if it's right, you will, and you can move forward. Sometimes you have to just look at it and go, I feel you, but I'm still moving forward. And that will begin to subside as you actually start to make some changes and some shifts. It's just new. It's a whole new world, right? Okay, this kind of brings me to the how do I sustain my energy and the motivation for what I really want to pursue, especially when I have this 9 to 5 or I'm a full-time mom and I'm tapped out and I'm tired and my day-to-days are taking up way too much of my attention and yet I really can't shift those, but I am still I think I'm still excited about it. And my biggest piece is 1, accept the season you're in. Maybe your baby is teething. Maybe you are having this big work project that's ramped up and it's going to be done in 1 month. Maybe your husband or your partner needs to add some extra hours to pay the bills because some things have shifted, or you've added this program, or you've had to take on more financial pieces. And so for the next couple months, time's going to be even shorter. And so you're feeling like, gosh, why am I even doing this? Now I'm not going to even have as much time. But you need to look at that and go, okay, this is my new reality. I have to just work within this. Maybe for 1 to 2 weeks, I don't make progress somewhere. I don't touch something. I wait and I'll just listen to my programs or my learning in the car or when I'm in the shower or in the bath, like doing something, you start to stack. That's something I've had to learn that I don't love. I do know when you start to multitask to too many things, we actually lose the ability to really focus and make solid progress or solid understanding. And yet, I think we can still do this to some extent. So I would say operate where you're at. If you're sick, be sick. Don't beat yourself up for the things that are falling behind or that need a pause or you need a couple days for your body to recover. You probably need the space to rest and to sleep and to purge whatever you're purging, right? How can you still know you have that big goal? You have this idea, this thing's coming to fruition. You've been curious and you signed up for this program and you're in the middle of it, but life is lifing. That's okay. Doesn't mean that you're now a failure, that you're not going to complete it, that this isn't going to be okay anymore. It's an adjustment period. So in that time, how do you support your body, your energy, your emotions, your family, your work, and show up and be accountable how you need to and adjust for that? Okay, so I think that's the first piece of it. And the second is more, say you have really nothing that's adjusted and you entered something or you're launching towards something and you're just tired. Like, oh, okay, like I'm kind of hit a lull and I'm struggling a little bit and I don't want to take the time. I think that's okay. I think the more we push against it or force ourselves to continue when we really don't feel like it's the right moment can actually hinder us. But I also have to say, be very careful, right? Be careful that it is a slippery slope for, depending on your personality type, that you might just not come back to it. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to just close the door. I'm fully done and I'm walking away because I just am tired and I can't do it. Maybe it's I'm going to crack the door a little bit and I'm going to do about half of what I thought I was going to do, or I'm going to adjust what my initial plan was to compensate for my body or my mind or emotions needing a little bit more time to get this done. I'm not going to drop it all, but I'm going to lessen what I need to do so you can get through those lulls, because I think they happen. Like, it's a very natural. We are, especially if you're a woman, we are a cyclical being and every day is different for how we feel and what we're coming to. But that doesn't mean that what you're pursuing isn't worthy or that you fully changed where you wanted to go. Sometimes you just need to take a little bit of a pause, a break, a walk, a vacation, a step away to then get that clarity, remind yourself why you're doing it, get fresh perspective, and then begin again. And I would always suggest continuing something. Don't fully stop unless that can be really beneficial. But sometimes I'm just going to take 2 days where I'm doing nothing. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to read. I'm going to be with my family. And then you come back and you're like, oh yeah, you start and you're like, yes, oh, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I want to pursue this. I have that happen so many times and it always blows my mind because you get those reinforcements and those reassurances if you're supposed to be here. And so, and I would also say if you're getting none of that, and you're just like firing things off and you're burning and you're not well, you're probably need a hard, like big reassessment. And maybe this really isn't what you thought it would be and this isn't right. And then have that conversation with yourself of what would it look like to stop or pause or really take that step away. But I think for the most of us, it's just the natural ebb and flows we have to adjust for and not beat ourselves up because life happens. And yet we are still capable of being passionate, curious learners, business owners, and pursue what we want. We just have to adjust sometimes. Okay, one of the biggest things too, I'd say when it comes to pursuing any type of continuing education, building a business, shifting from full-time mom to even maybe you want a 9-to-5. But a big piece is the financial consideration of how, one, do you fund your passion projects in business while also meeting your financial obligations to your job and your family, where is that going to come from? Are you going to stop going out for coffee? Are you going to drive a little less? You're not going to go see that friend 2 times a week that takes 30 minutes both ways and just be like, hey, I'm just going to stay in, or offer them to come to you. Or instead of going out for dinner, we're going to go for a hike, or we're going to go do something that doesn't cost anything or cost less, to start to have that money there to fund this. Sometimes it's also saving, right? Maybe you're super excited and you're so ready, but you don't have the funds and you don't want to put everything on a credit card. So you get that goal of where you'd be comfortable of starting and how much is that? And then you start building your savings account, or knowing that's the goal you're working towards. And when you have that, and if you're still excited and motivated for it, you're going to go. You're ready to go for it. And my other tips too is always, especially if it's a program that you're looking into, continued education, looking for, could be scholarships. Maybe there's a scholarship out there that could fund you, asking about payment plans, about discounts, and you have to be really tactful. What they're doing is so worthy of the price they're paying. So be mindful of how you're asking, but a payment plan can surely be done in this day and age. And so you feel like you're more able to actually reach and do that program. And also knowing, and I'm not a financial advisor, do what you need. I am in no way accountable. So I'm going to put that there. You're an adult, do what you need. But sometimes it's okay to go into debt. Sometimes it's okay to actually be able to launch what you're wanting to launch. It is okay to get that credit, get that help, get that loan to fully fund and say, I need this to take these next steps in my life. And I'm kind of at a place where I can't save anymore. I have no expendable income. So I'm going to need some help, and then get a plan that you can begin to pay back to where you're capable of doing so. So I never shy away from that too much. I would love to say I have no debt and I'm just free and clear. And yet the reality of this world, it is almost impossible. Like if you're doing it, yay. Big pat on your back, you're amazing. But sometimes we have to go into debt to have a house over our heads, or to have the car to drive that's actually reasonable. And so be smart, but know you're worthy. You're worthy of sometimes taking that to pursue what you want to do, noting hopefully financially and practically you will get that money back in return. And even if you don't, I think sometimes we go into this, we're going to learn this skill and it's going to bring me all this money, and then we do nothing and we beat ourselves up. It's well, did you find fulfillment? Did you find gratitude? Did you learn something from what you just went through? Sometimes that's enough, and that can be enough, that we don't have to, everything we do doesn't have to have a monetary exchange, even if we did pay for those service or that program or the business expenses that were needed to pursue what you want to do. So use your best judgment, but just be thoughtful, right? Don't go crazy. Have a budget, have a plan, have that financial consideration in place so you can pursue your passion and work and pay your bills and be feeling good, because that's the goal here, right? We want to be feeling good in our life. That's a whole reason we are pursuing a passion. We are pursuing learning outside of our 9 to 5, because we feel like we're ready to learn something. We're ready to grow into something new. We need this, or we are really being called to this, and that is a worthy pursuit. So I'm going to give you that. If you are stuck or feeling unsure, pursuing your passions is a worthy pursuit. Okay. One of the other pieces that I think I have come across, especially more specifically, I guess I see it both with the programs I've done, but also business pieces of what programs do I actually pay into? What can actually help me? What applications am I using and paying for? And so how do you choose, right? How can you choose a skill, a course, a business mentor to invest in when you have limited time and resources? And I would say, so one, you know what you can afford. So you probably need to find and have that be one of your considerations when you're looking, as the front of mind of, that's going to limit me on some, but trust you can find something that will work for what you're doing. The other piece I've always trusted is my gut. I have a feeling energetically and feeling I am pulled towards this program. I am pulled towards this person. I am pulled towards this mentor. It's coming into my mind frame. A friend told me about it, or it just popped up on my feed, or when I started Google searching about this, like I keep coming back to this one program or this one application, or I'm most comfortable when I'm learning something or needing some type of tool for my business and I'm looking at 3 different ones. Like, what's that one you keep being pulled towards or you feel most aligned with, even if you're unsure, is that the truth? Am I thinking of everything? Like, just do your best, but trust that pull, because that is leading you and telling you and making you feel like, oh, this feels good for me and this is right. And again, if you can't afford it, save up, find a way to do it, or find another program that's similar to it. Like, identify, why was I drawn to that? What were those pieces in that curriculum or in that business tools that I felt really good about? And then take those and look elsewhere if that is still too pricey or you're not willing to pay that. And that's totally okay. I don't think we should feel we have to, even if it feels really light, shell out way more than we're comfortable doing. You will find somewhere else. So don't get too caught up on, oh, okay, I can't do this because, like, even maybe your time doesn't align, even outside of resources, it's time. Like, I can't get childcare during that time, or I'm in a meeting every week on that time. Like, oh, that's such a bummer. Trust that, right? Okay. That's okay. This is not the end. Don't let that be the end. Just start to research differently. Google is your best friend. I tell this to all my employees and I tell this to myself and to you. Google is your best friend. Yes, Google is a machine and the devil and all the things, right? There's a whole rabbit hole, but I use that word as in research. So use whatever search engine you want, but research. Start to ask. Use ChatGPT even, like, hey, this is what I'm curious about and I'm interested in. What kind of things or keywords can I start to search and try to find? AI is becoming a powerhouse in the realm of everything. And it is so smart. You just kind of have to train your brain of, what am I asking? Watch out. Don't put any confidential information in ChatGPT. Okay. But otherwise, go for it and just pursue and ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out to their customer service or contact them and ask all the questions you have before you pay for that service as well, or before you do something regarding your business, especially if there's a financial piece to it. You should feel 100% confident in what you're doing, and they should be willing to take the time with you to work with you and answer those questions if they are a good, reputable source. So do the work ahead of time, right? That's how I think you can choose. And also, like, if you're unsure and you have this far off lofty goal of, I want to be a, say, writer, I want to be a podcaster, and you just are like, where do I start? Do I just pay for someone to teach me, do all these things? Just start researching. How do I become a podcaster? How do I begin to write a book? What exercises can I do day in, day out? Become that curious learner before you're even in the program. I think we should always be critically thinking and being curious and using that to help us engage with ourselves and be able to fully back our choices and really find the things that we need. Okay, I think the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to balancing and thriving truly in a 9-to-5 or full-time motherhood and actually pursuing those passions is trusting in yourself. So a lot of this, I would say, is trusting in yourself, identifying the values that you have. Use your value system. So what are those 4 to 5 attributes that are core to you, that fuel you, that excite you? And also be in the present moment. So maybe you have some really lofty dreams, but you're really far from them, right? You can't just go to sleep and wake up and you're like, oh, I'm this beautiful, amazing New York Times bestseller. No, there's going to be some work to be done. And so be where you are now and just take that next right step. Do not compare yourself to anyone else. Only use comparison when you're using it as a way of expansion of, hey, wow, that person's doing kind of what I want to do and it's really beautiful. Or, hey, they are this amazing herbalist and I want to just become an herbalist for my family. And this is just what I want to do. And so you start to pursue. And another tip I would say is to not tie money into everything. So that's hard, right? That's like, it's a really tricky statement to say. You are worthy of money. You are worthy of that return. Yet sometimes when we tie the expectations of the monetary value that we want to have on the aftermath of, okay, well, I'm going to do this program because one, I'm really loving it, but then maybe there's an opportunity to make money and maybe there's an opportunity to make money here. And then I'm hoping and I'd have to do this business because I need money and I need this. That energy is really unsettled and that energy is pretty chaotic and money will come. I think your focus, if you're pursuing a passion or an interest or just curious and want to learn, the driver should be your interest and your passion and your heart-led want for that expansion, for that growth, for that next step. And then it will come together. Maybe you'll have an aha. Maybe, yes, there will be an opportunity and you're really excited to want to put together readings or begin to write books and actually put them into the world. Trust that those steps will come when you're ready, but be careful that that monetary piece isn't that core driver of what and why you're doing something. If you really want to be heart-led, authentic, and in your true self and feel balanced in what you're going for. I think it's totally fine. I'm not saying, hey, I need money, and so I'm going to go for that and have these goals to make these monetary numbers. These are two different things that I'm talking about here. I'm talking from the lens of I am in a 9-to-5 and or a stay-at-home mom, and I'm curious about learning. I'm curious about using my voice and sharing this with the world or wanting to change my life. And so I need to learn these skills. Like, know your why of why you're going into whatever you're pursuing and let that North Compass really drive you. Continue to come back to that. Your values, your why, your heart, your intuition, your purpose of why are you here? Because you really shouldn't be doing something or spending tons of money or time if you're not invested in yourself, and let that guide you. It always amazes me the people who come forward, the opportunities that present, the ahas, the things that click when I just move from what is that next right action right now. And it's important to have that bigger vision. So if you are building a business, have a business plan, really start to look at it as a business. Did you legally move through everything? If you're also your full-time human doing something full-time, whatever that is, your bandwidth's limited. So just take one step at a time. Get the skills you need, get the applications in place that you need, and pursue. And same with continued learning or wanting to get a certificate in something because you're just so curious. Just build in the time, build in the framework. You're worthy to spend that money, and go find those people and actually show up and do the work. If you are pursuing, be accountable, be integritous, be strong, and you're gonna ebb and flow in those feelings. So be in the season and the place you're in, and I promise you are gonna thrive. I promise it is gonna feel good. You will have ups and downs, but you are moving into your growth zone, and that's really all we can ask for. So I hope that this episode was helpful. I hope that if you're in this space, you're moving through this, that this gave you some tangible tips and ways and applications that you can start to integrate and think about to better your pursuits, to be able to balance a full-time gig with actually wanting to grow, to learn, to expand, to build, whatever that looks like for you. And I sincerely wish you all the best in that endeavor. And if you're feeling like you're out of space where you're unsure about something, if you have blocks, if you're just like, I need support, higher guidance, more clarity around something, please reach out via my website, www.olivia-ashley.com. I do have one-on-one work that we could do, whether it's this through Akashic record reading or Reiki in Akashic session. I can help just pull in your guides, help pull in your highest self, and get you the answers to those burning questions, those blocks, that information that you need to thrive now. So if that's at all interesting, please reach out. I would love to support you to take whatever you're thinking about further. So
thank you for joining me on
Good
Live
luck with
Wildly.
all your
If you enjoyed
endeavors,
this
and
episode,
we will be
make
back
sure
with
to
another
subscribe to
episode
the
soon.
podcast so you never miss an empowering story, insightful lesson, or transformative tip. Together, we can continue to challenge the status quo, enhance our intuition, and uncover what makes us come alive. To dive deeper into our community of changemakers and access exclusive content, head over to my Instagram at WildlyOlivia for inspiration and updates. Remember, we are the changemakers in this world. Keep shining your light and living wildly. Until next time, I'm Olivia Ashley, and I can't wait to connect with you again.